Evening, everyone. Before we get started, because we have a full house, I just want to make sure everyone understands that if you would like a response from the board, you're going to speak to us tonight. It is most helpful to us if you fill out a comment card that has your name and contact information. If you didn't get one of those and you want it, it should be right outside of our group there. Okay. And with that said, this meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It's not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. And upon request to the superintendent, the district shall make reasonable accommodation for a person with disabilities to be able to participate in the meeting. Can you please call the roll? Mr. Albright?
Here.
Mr. Arnold? Bruderly? Here. Spola?
Here.
Angus? Here. Ryder? Here. Mara? Here. Benito? Mr. Watson?
Here.
Thank you. We have meeting minutes from our May 7th meeting included in the packet. I'll move the Board of Education approve the meeting minutes from May 7th as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The board policy provides that the superintendent of schools shall prepare an agenda for all board meetings as directed by the president of the Board of Education. We have a motion for tonight's agenda. I'll move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as presented. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Tonight we do not have a school presentation, so we're going to move right to our first opportunity for public participation. Each speaker is allotted a maximum of 5 minutes for a total of approximately 30 minutes unless otherwise notified. At this point in the meeting, those interested in making a public comment will be asked to raise their hands so the time may be divided equally. Each speaker will be asked to announce their name and district of residence and indicate if they represent any organization or agency. No person may speak more than once on the same subject during a single meeting, nor yield their time to another speaker. Please note that the board does not respond to comments during the meetings, and those wishing to receive a personal response from the board or superintendent should complete a public comment form available at the meeting entrance or on our website. So with that being said, I have 5 comment cards right here. Can I just ask for a quick show of hands to see if I missed anybody? 5, 6. We've got 6. Okay, that is fine. And we do keep the time, so just know that if you hear it go off, you have at the end of your time. I'm going to ask you just to volunteer to go first, but I can call on people if that's easier. Perfect. We do have a microphone there. If you just want to push and hold the button, that way we can make sure the room is able to hear you. Yeah, push it just till the light goes on, and then it should work for you. Perfect.
Okay. My name is Brandon Jones. I'm from Ypsilanti, and I am here with the Huron Valley DSA. I have some documents to share with the board. One being a copy of petitions with signatures, and one policy 516, which was rescinded recently.
I get here, so okay, let's just, do you want us to look at them while you speak, or?
It's up to the board.
Let's just hold it so we can focus and we'll get it here in between. Thank you.
So I'll start by reading the policy. Reading the petition. The petition to reinstate policy 5106 regarding the protections of transgender students. Dear members of the Dexter Community Schools Board, we, the undersigned, respectfully petition the Dexter Community Schools Board to reinstate policy 5106 transgender students that was rescinded on March 17, 2025. This policy, which previously provided explicit protections for the rights and dignity of transgender students, is vital to the continued success and well-being of the students, staff, and community members it affects. This policy was rescinded in response to federal executive orders, which are currently being challenged in court. We ask that you carefully consider the concerns of the community and take the necessary steps to reinstate this important policy. We are parents, teachers, community members, and allies who stand with transgender children and their families. We believe all students will be able to attend school with the support they require, which they had previously been afforded. Evidence-based research has shown that providing transgender students with a supportive environment lowers their risk for suicide and depression. We strongly believe that reinstating policy 5106 is in the best interest and the health of our students, educators, and community. We, the undersigned, urge Dexter Community Schools to act in favor of reinstating this policy to ensure that the values of equity, safety, and academic excellence continue to be upheld within our district. We ask that the Board of Education stand with their students and vote to reinstate policy 5106. Then attached as well is a list of over 200 signatures from members of the community, students, parents, etc. I'd like to close with a personal statement, so this is not part of the petition. Recent executive orders embody the reason why the protections afforded in policy 5106 are so important. The purpose of this policy is to protect students from opposition. Even if this opposition comes from the federal government, you must take a stand and let students know that we will protect them. And then, to quote a portion from the rescinded policy 5106, the student best suited to determine a student's gender identity is the individual student. My question to the board is, will you stand with trans students in the community and reinstate policy 5106?
My name is. I've gone to school at Dexter my entire life, starting in preschool. During my I underwent struggles with my gender identity, resulting in a change of name and pronouns. And to inform my teachers of this change, I asked them to keep my discretion when talking to my parents, which they did. I was lucky to have teachers decent enough to keep my privacy, as these policies were not in place during my time in middle school. Trans kids and kids going through the same things that I did deserve the discretion and privacy I was lucky to receive. So many trans kids have unsafe home lives. Having information like a new name and new pronouns exposed to unsupportive parents puts both their mental and physical health at risk. They shouldn't have to rely on luck to keep them safe. Schools are supposed to protect students no matter how they identify. Learning shouldn't be inhibited because a school failed to keep their students safe. Having these protections in place saves educations. They save lives. These protections need to be restored for the safety and discretion of trans and queer kids. My question for the board is, will you restore this policy? Thank you.
My name. I love to be involved in my community, especially when it comes to mental health. The topic of transgender rights in my community is something that I can commiserate with deeply. Many of my friends and peers are under the transgender umbrella. Therefore, I have a lot to say. And I will start by saying that simply stating that students will be protected isn't enough. While laws and policies exist to promote safety and comfort, they don't guarantee it. In environments like schools where information such as a student's legal name might appear on platforms like PowerSchool or permission slips, privacy can be easily compromised. It's also important to recognize that not every student is safe being at home. For some, revealing the preferred name or gender identity to a parent or guardian could result in emotional harm or rejection. That's why privacy is important. Students should have the right to decide when and if they discuss their identity with family members. Outing a student intentionally or accidentally can compromise their safety. Schools must put policies that prioritize the student's well-being first, including adjustments that allow for the use of a chosen name in school records without requiring parental approval when it's unsafe to obtain. Dexter, as a community, can either be well-informed or completely misinformed. And when it comes to transgender students, opinions are sharply divided. From my experience as a student in Dexter, people tend to either support and understand the transgender community or remain uninformed, often relying on misconceptions. Revealing a student's legal name without consent can put their safety and emotional well-being at risk, especially when they use a different name that reflects their identity. It can be very triggering to see your dead name on many platforms, especially when you feel disconnected to it. Let me put it this way. Imagine you've lived in isolation your entire life. In a cold, dark room, you've eaten on the hard floor, you've slept on it, and you've walked day after day after day. It's all you've ever known. Cold, darkness, and emptiness. And one day, suddenly, you're released. You're brought into the biggest house you've ever seen. The moment you step inside, you're enveloped by the warm and rich aroma of freshly baked goods. You wander through the house, exploring every room, your feet seeking into the softest carpet imaginable. You find a bedroom with beautifully painted walls and antique furniture glowing in the natural light. You walk to the window and look out. Mountains stretch endlessly before you, blanketed in lush green beneath flawless blue sky. For the first time, you feel at home, like you've finally found the place where you truly belong. But just as you're about to breathe it in, someone grabs your arm and yanks you away. In an instant, you're back in the cold, dark cellar. Only now, you know for certain you were never meant to stay there. That's how people of the transgender community feel when they hear the name that they've been trying to avoid. To them, it's not just a name, it's an identity, it's their home. When they hear the name, they feel their soul being called. I stand here today to ask the board to reinstate the policies that protect students' rights. They, as much as anyone else, deserve comfort and safety. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Steph Rouse. I am a Ann Arbor community member, and I also work right down the street at Peaceful Minds Counseling Services as a mental health therapist. I work with several trans students across the age range and have been doing so for over 5 years now. And so today I kind of want to talk a little bit about the importance of belonging and safety for learning. And I think it's been kind of elevated pretty well already, like the feeling of belonging that is either accessible or non-accessible to trans students based on how the adults in the community around them treat them. And I think it's important to note that as a school, I think everyone here would agree that your primary goal is to create a sense or a space for learning and community. And you can't learn, and students can't learn if they don't feel safe. And in my experience working with trans students, they often default to a feeling of lack of safety because they assume the adults around them or the people around them won't be accepting. And so often a lot of my work, and I think what's a beautiful opportunity for a school to create an explicitly accepting community for trans students. Because as it was spoken already, like a lot of your students who are trans might not have home environments that are accepting, might not have experienced past school experiences that were accepting. And so really taking the opportunity to say out loud, say very clearly, openly, and over, like you are welcome and you belong here. Yeah, I think that schools have a really cool opportunity to be this place of community for all. And so I'm here today to just ask you very clearly to reinstate the policy 5106 to do that in Dexter, because I think it's a really great space or great community. And so just being very open and standing for all students regardless of their identity. Thank you.
My name is Marie Canero. I have been a resident of Dexter for over 25 years. And both of my children spent the majority of their K through 12 school years in Dexter Community Schools and both graduated from Dexter Community Schools. I've almost always been proud of our school district for its excellent, dedicated teachers and its proactive tack to strengthening the education of Dexter's children. One such instance was the adoption of the IB program. One of my youngest, now 27 years old, was still in Dexter High School. It was a powerful move. You had a lot of blowback and you guys stood strong. Another was the adoption of policy 5106 for transgender students. My 27-year-old was trans. Mostly the Dexter schools were great for them. They participated in Quiz Bowl in 3rd through 6th grade. In high school, they were in the IB program. They really found a home in debate, choir, and drama, at which time drama included 10% of the student population. I don't know where it is now. You'll see that 7th and 8th grades are missing. They really struggled with social exceptions and bullying in 6th grade to the point that we transferred them to Emerson School for the rest of middle school. At the time, trans or the idea of transitioning really wasn't in any of our vocabularies. In recent years, my kid mentioned that they were so depressed at the time they might have considered killing themselves. I was horrified to think that I hadn't seen that and that I had come so close to the worst nightmare imaginable for a parent. We had the opportunity to make that choice, but others don't, and they shouldn't have to. The Dexter School Board took powerful action by implementing the policy 5106 to ensure kids like mine feel safe and are valued members of the school community, as these other students have proudly said. As the board indicated in their opening paragraph of 5106, the board recognizes that transgender students nationally and in Michigan are targeted with physical violence and experience a hostile school environment more frequently than their peers. Supportive environments that acknowledge and affirm a student's gender identity is a protective factor that improves health and educational outcomes. These are your own words. I'm here to ask that you reestablish your support for protecting the rights of all students, reinstate policy 5106, and in addition to honoring that testament of support, you're going to bring yourself in line with your legal responsibilities under the expansion of the ELCRA Public Act 6 of 2023. State civil rights law remains the law in spite of federal actions of the moment. In case you're wondering, my kid learned to accept and understand themselves for who they are. They took action to claim their gender identity as a young adult. They're now a happy, motivated, and inspiring teacher of both high schoolers and their own parents. Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Evans, resident of Dexter. My child was at Emerson, actually. That's probably how we know each other. K through 8, when we moved here, they were in 5th, so they continued there. And then when it was time for high school, we took a deep breath. They were non-binary. They had just been through COVID and had some difficulties, as I spoke to two of you. Thank you so much for your time. I am so impressed with the young people who are here and standing up for themselves and their friends and the people that are supporting them. And my kiddo at that point was just not in the place to be on the front line. And no kid should have to be on the front line. We adults should be on the front line for the kids. And I appreciate that this is a really hard time. U of M, like, has pulled things. A lot of institutions have pulled things. I don't believe that that is how we stop this. I think if you give an inch, they take it all. I think that's the goal. It's in their documents. I don't see that there's going to be a better time to stand up for the kids and let them know. When we came here, we talked to counselors about how things were so good here now. And I just felt, you know what, it's too precarious. It hasn't been a long time. And I wasn't sure that the adults and the people would be able to make it clear that they have the backs of their kids, right? And I know intentions are good, and what's in our hearts often isn't what's in our policies, in our written words. But that clarity right now, I think, is important. I think making a statement that the Michigan law is the law and an executive order is something that is, ambiguous and needs to be clarified, and maybe we don't buckle beforehand, because I think that's how things get torn apart and then we can't get them back together. And I feel like this is an important time. They are now at ECA, and if it's even just for a financial community understanding, my mom was in real estate. When people are buying homes, they are looking at what those schools are doing for their kids. And if the policy in print is saying, we don't support this, they might not choose to be here. And I know my kiddo, while things are heightened in terms of anxiety, as they are for all kids and all people who feel vulnerable right now, I don't feel like, I'm sorry that they aren't in a place where they are getting 100% support all down the line. So, thank you so much for your time.
And move on to our administrative and board updates. I'll start with Superintendent.
Yes, today, Wiley Elementary students presented their place-based education projects and semis at Eastern Michigan University. KDC Wiley Elementary principal received the Semis Legacy Award for all the work on place-based education. Seniors have done
Their life, don't give us a.
honors nights next Wednesday and commencement weekend Friday. So wrapping up, and we got the senior clap out going on next week or this week. So big day, Marty. Glad you came back. You need to come back after so you can see your induction of your successor.
Oh,
Whoever it may be, we don't know yet. Yeah.
excited.
For the board president update, I will just let everybody know that there was a Washtenaw Association of School Boards sponsored legislative breakfast this morning. It was a smaller turnout today, both with the legislators and there's just a lot going on in districts right now. The focus today was on budget, both federal and state budget, and districts were able to sort of communicate to the legislators where some of the challenges are in the current write-ups of things, and there's just generally a lot of frustration with the timing, both the legislators themselves and the districts who are understanding that nobody's going to have the budgets done when they're supposed to be done in order for the schools to more easily meet our June 30th deadline. And so with that, I will turn it over to our student representatives.
Most of you already know, but I'm happy to report that the tennis team did get enough points to make the states. So on page 30, it's Friday, we go to Kalamazoo for states and hopefully we'll get some points and at least get somewhere in the ranking. I doubt we'll win it, but that's a good aspiration. Girls Lacrosse is also doing well. They won their first district game, I don't know what they call it, but they had their second one Wednesday. I'm not sure if it's here, but hopefully they can keep on going.
It's a random swing.
Hopefully they can win that and have success in sport. AP IB testing is for the most part done. Like all the IB diploma kids have their big chunks of testing done, IB testing done. So the school, high school specifically, is definitely getting a little slower since the seniors are leaving. It's kind of weird being a junior, all my classes are seniors. But yeah.
What's up, guys? I haven't done this in a week, but, no, I think the big theme going around this senior year is almost over. I'm excited. I don't know if you guys can't tell, but no, it's just, I've done a lot of reflecting, you know, what it's meant to be a school district for the last 12 years. It's been incredible, and, you know, just really happy that, you know, I went to Dexter schools and I moved here, and that I also, you know, had a chance to make that board. Super proud of that. But, you know, just kind of getting into what I've been getting up to, you know, the last couple of months. Lacrosse is where I've mostly been, had a lot of games. We have our second round of regionals on Wednesday against FGR, you know, the bench team. So super excited about that. Hope my finger gets better. That hurts, but it's a little purple. But you know, it's not broken, I think. My dad's a doctor, but I haven't gotten it checked. I'm gonna play, so like we'll play. It'll be all right. What else? I did Senior Survivor. That was cool. I slept on the floor of high school for a week. That was really cool. I didn't win it. I got third, but I won the assembly, and that's what people remember. So you know what? I'm pretty happy with that. We also did this project in IB Film where me and a group of other seniors, we worked with this one class of fourth graders down at Wiley, and we would come in and help them make like stop motion videos. That was really cool. It was fun just collaborating with them, teaching them some techniques and also just, you know, being a role model for them. That was really cool. And, you know, just last week we got to watch their final projects and it was really cool. You know, they got to come to high school and we had popcorn, we had this whole thing. It was great. I think they had a great time. And another thing we did on stats every year, we do the math day of fun where we go down to the deck. We were teaching or just playing games with like first graders, like math games, everything, helping with addition. It's interesting, you know, looking back, you know, they're like trying to figure out what's 20 minus 7. You know, I got that real fast. I'm confident with that, but you know, it's just fun helping them and just also going up to recess was pretty cool. I've missed recess, but you know, it's been a fun last 3 months and it's been a great senior year. And that's all I got.
Right.
Looking for funding.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's from the lunch.
I haven't been on the debate scene. No, it was one.
I don't know exactly. I think part of it is transportation because transportation was iffy this year. We had to drive ourselves to some of the tournaments, which is hard because most of them are pretty far away. And I think the big part is we want funding for those tournaments. And for example, states is always usually Detroit, and having that transportation is helpful. Because like for forensics, for example, that's also on school days, so not everyone's parents can be there. I think that's mainly what's it's to qualify for this, your teams can go to national qualifiers, but I didn't think any teams wanted to this year.
Thank you, guys. Marty, we're really glad that you're here with us on your last Monday. So good luck with the rest of your week.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the consent items. Do we have a motion? I'll move to the Board of Education approve the consent items and
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I just want to note that Dr. Jane Montero is retiring, and I know that she will be well missed. A lot of things. Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent items in bold say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to our action items. We have quite a stack here today, guys. All right. First off, we have a letter in our packet that is Dr. Thomas's announcement of his retirement, which will be effective February 28th, 2026. I'll move that the Board of Education accept Dr. Thomas's notice of retirement effective February 28th. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We gave a lot of props last meeting, so we will just roll ahead and take our punishment that you're going to us. No. As this is, yes, we do. And now we need tomorrow, so. As this is an action item, I would like to do a call vote. You're all right? Really? Aye. Cole?
Aye.
Angus? Aye. Riser? Aye. Rivera? Aye. Right, policies. Our packet includes 14 policies that were reviewed by the committee on April 25th and were approved for first reading by the board on May 7th, 2025. They're presented for second reading and final approval this evening. I'll move that the Board of Education approve policies 4113, 4105A, and B, 5714, 5715, 3115, 3115A, B, C, D, F, H, and 3118 for second reading and final.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? We went through these in detail at our last meeting. The main reminder is that these were all being updated to meet the law. Okay, let's go to a roll call vote. Aye.
Aye.
Angus? Aye. Riser? Aye. Rivera? Aye. Mr. Albright? Okay. Our packet includes a large number of policies with minor updates, mostly legal, typographical, and or additional language recommended by True Law, our policy provider. These were reviewed by the committee on April 25th, 2025, and are presented for first reading this evening. The policy numbers and titles are listed in an attachment. I think, do we need to list all of them individually?
No, you can say these.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move that the Board of Education approve the policies listed attachment dated May 19th, 2025 for first reading.
Do the motion in a second. Any discussion?
Right, just so you guys know, the policy, there are some ESTA updates, that is the sick time. So there's like brand new policies and those are in your packet. And then we also had Title IX updates. So if you look at, I mean, really, it's just pretty straightforward. And then there's other things that we just went through. It's mostly just wording, grammatics, type corrections. If anybody has any specific questions, we had all policy.
Were we not in compliance? Were we in compliance with that stuff?
Oh, they changed it. So they changed it. They changed it, and we hadn't made a change, and then they changed it again. So fortunately, because we didn't make the change, we didn't change it. So this would comply now. That makes sense.
But we're at the collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. With the client. And we were in compliance.
That's what I was thinking. Right. Maybe a couple of. Okay.
We would do.
We roll it.
Well, and you guys will know there's a 311. There's a 311.
Yes.
That's the, under the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. There's
Yeah.
a lot of changes in that. But it really just cleans up the act or the policy. It puts a lot of the definitions, better. So. Oh, that is in the first section. I have so many policies. It's okay. It's okay. Done a lot. And then we also had, yeah, it's really just.
And there was adding, in the smoking tobacco products, there was alcohol. And so,
And we also, yeah, so one of the things I would point out, you'll see in here where it says parent backslash guardian and it says parent, no, we are keeping parent slash guardian. So that is actually.
It was a recommended change from that Dexter did
We are
not.
not.
Yeah, I was wondering.
So throughout, if you ever see parent backslash guardian and we recommend it just to go to parent, we're not doing that, we're putting it parent slash.
I hope I caught them all.
That's okay.
If they're
It's a
not
lot.
correct, we'll be corrected the next time.
Yeah,
So-
I'll make sure, yeah, so we will,
Wants to circle.
she's got, it. Yeah.
Trends, we like
Oh,
their
sorry,
policies.
someone's gonna say stat at the top because there was too many in the formatting was going crazy, so that means leave.
Oh, yep, you do make that up. I'm looking at 5206, see guys, just so you know.
It's all.
Yeah, so we're not making that change.
Trends documents are a little bit harder to make the adjustments.
Okay.
One question on the technology, so I can't remember, we have a separate AI policy, correct? Or not?
Not currently.
So is that addressed in this,
what policy?
just AI, well, district technology? Is that 4200? Yeah, 4259, so this is just like, this is more fitness related, but.
Oh, yeah, that's just district views.
We put together a more adaptive. Positions. Staff. And we have our own, I mean, I think we had a presentation, we have our own. See. We have other, we don't have set policy, and most districts are not adopting policy. Change on this. The AI is embedded. So it's the acceptable use, we still have under the student code kind of. But as far as AI use.
I guess getting to the question that, that could be possible question is in terms of, student preferred names, pronouns, et cetera, is that in AI in any way, or? That's all protected for fun.
I know the policy committee about a year ago or so had a conversation about an AI policy. And we did kind of land on it's all changing so fast that any policy right now is probably to be out of date rather quickly. I don't think that's a reason to never have a policy, but the landscape has changed very. I think it's something we should keep an eye on.
These are the tools like Google, email, spreadsheets, all of their stuff suite, it automatically. Sorry. Perfect. That's, the student data was so. Our school.
Well, it's brought up like through my work, you know, we're working on an application and if you feed all the information into it, then it's obviously knowledge, so we're trying to develop policies around making sure that we don't feed that into unintentional. You know, it helps everybody, right? It helps kids, it helps teachers. People still use it to make sure that we're protected.
Well, this set of policies of.
Thank you.
That was really my question. But you know, certainly if we have a policy that gets brought to us by Shroom and we look at it, if we think it's relevant, it's not going to.
And if board members have specific concerns on things they'd like to go through policy committee, you should send them to Melanie and Bear and they can bring them.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't missing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we have a motion and a second, so let's do a roll call.
Mr. Polo.
Aye.
Ms. Kangas. Aye. Mr. Riser.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Albright.
Aye. All right, our IB sports resource proposal, our packet includes a proposal to purchase updated course materials necessitated by the IB sports curriculum updates for an estimated total of $3,400. This was previously discussed at our May 7th meeting. We have a motion. I'll move that the Board of Education authorize the purchase of updated course materials for IB sports not to exceed $300. Any discussion? Do a roll call vote.
Ms. Kangas. Aye. Mr. Riser.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Albright. Mr. Wonderly.
Aye.
Mr. Polo.
Aye.
The WISD budget. Our packet includes 2025-2026 proposed budget documents from the WISD. The board must adopt a resolution of support or indicate specific recommendations for changes before June 1st, 2025. This budget was previously discussed at the May 7th, 2025 meeting and is presented for action this evening. I will move the proposal to start the budget as presented. I'll second. You have that one. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the WISD budget that's sent to us. Any discussion? All right, let's do a vote.
Riser.
Aye.
Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Albright. Mr. Wonderly.
Aye.
Mr. Polo.
Aye.
Kangas.
Aye. All right, WISD biennial election. Our packet contains a memo regarding the upcoming WISD biennial election and sample ballot. The election will be held on June 2nd, 2025 at 6 p.m. By law, the body electing the intermediate school district board members will be composed of one representative of the board from each constituent district, who shall be designated by the constituent board. In addition to selecting delegates, the board needs to direct the voting delegate as to whom to cast the Dexter votes for. Our packet includes biographies for 3 6-year term candidates and 2 2-year candidates. Each constituent board of education may only vote for 2 6-year candidates and 1 2-year candidate. Dexter may also opt to designate a writing candidate of their own this evening. I will move the Board of Education adopt the attached resolution naming Mike Satola as the WISD election voting delegate and myself as the alternate, and direct the delegate or alternate to vote for Diane Hockett and Mary Jane Travachan for 6-year terms, and Dorcas Vasily for 2 years. I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussions?
Still there.
You're still able to the work for you.
Still
Still
working.
able to back up.
Yeah, still working.
Okay.
Is there a reason why 2 members to 6 years? I would make my brain. Let's see.
They chose what spot they were on.
Okay, she chose it.
Yeah. That doesn't say that in my.
No.
I get that question. I do just want to note that the other candidate for the 6-year post did come to our meeting and brought us materials, and I very much appreciated his outreach and his desire to serve on the board as the WASB representative. I will say that Diane Hockett and Mary Jane Crampton are extremely involved and extremely on top of everything. They were both at the legislative breakfast this morning, and so I guess as much as I appreciated this interest, I also wanted to honor their long time service. 1994 and 2001, yeah. Wow. Okay, any other discussion? Do a roll call vote.
Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Albright. Wonderly.
Aye.
Mr. Polo.
Aye.
Ms. Kangas.
Aye.
Mrs. Riser.
Aye. All right, the DEA tentative agreement. This evening's packet includes an executive summary and the Dexter Education Association tentative agreement to run 2025 through 2028. Move that the Board of Education ratify the attached A, tentative agreement to run in 2025 to 2028. We have a motion and a second, any discussion?
We've been in negotiations with teacher union for quite a while, working through language and financials. The tentative agreement includes a 3% increase on steps as adjustment for all our extra duties, which have not changed. As an adjustment for the music stipends that were set at a salary schedule of 2006. Index, changes in healthcare, contributions from the district, and charts. They included among changes, the total cost is actually covered through retirement savings and replacement for retirees. Condition based on retirement. Should be. It's covered for this portion. We have tremendous, incredible teaching staff. We have a great relationship with the Dexter Education Association. And what we've done historically is when there are times that we can do something, we do it. But we also have an understanding that if things get tight, we collaboratively work to make sure that we keep class sizes small, keep programs for our students. And it's the same spirit, same as we've done for decades.
I just want to offer some appreciation to the administration and to the finance team here for doing the hard work to keep us in a financial position that allows us to be able to do this contract. Because I know that I'm sure there are districts who want to be able to do it in advance, so I just want to appreciate all the work. And with that, let's do a roll call vote.
Mr. Albright.
Aye.
Literally.
Aye.
Mr. Secola.
Aye.
Jenkins. Aye. Rocker.
Aye.
Rivera.
Aye. All right. School calendar that was hot off the press when we sat down tonight. Okay. The DEA voted on the 2025-2026 school calendar, and we need to approve it tonight so that we can share it with very anxious families and staff.
I'll move that the Board of Education approve the attached 25-26 school calendar. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just, when you're, for many of you, it's your first time through this, school calendars are mandatory subject of bargaining with the teacher union. So we've worked through, in our contract basically says the union puts together a couple of options for calendar member vote on it. We meet the number of hours, days that are required by law. We actually have, we're able to do sort of PD time to count, we will make half days. They try to put the PD days on Mondays and Fridays to make it more differently. We have required 30 hours minimum, especially development we have to do with all teachers. It starts after Labor Day, but Labor Day is September 1st this year, so nice early start. And I will successfully have made it through 17 years as a superintendent, never started before Labor Day and had to do labor and all those things. So next year, I don't know what you're doing with this day.
What is the record?
Records Day is when they do grades, final, it's mostly a secondary, they're doing the semester grades, finishing out everything for transcripts, semester, and for the end of the year. We do an optional Records Day and checkout just as a backup in case we have to make up a day, so it's a vacation that day. If there's something weird that happens, which has happened about, it seems about every 10 years. But the Records Day really are usually half days where the afternoon the teachers work.
Early release day.
We do those
Not half
They're
days?
still their half day.
Okay, well, because a lot of schools have early release Friday, so I just wanted to make sure that that's, so early release is really.
Yep, and enjoy with that, but it's, trying to keep Mondays and Fridays, keep it as many 5-day weeks as possible throughout the year. But just knowing that January and February are mess every year, they just are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and accompanying this is the family friendly calendar, so they don't have to read the coding. This is what has to go to the auditors, so we can show how much time it has to be, so we can show which time we're in, but this is good.
Nice to get done to.
And I guess I just also want to note, our winter break and spring break are part of the county-wide system, and so that is determined by, you can look for Infinity, because it's always the last week of March, for example, so those are decisions we don't. Okay, and let's do a roll call vote. Aye.
Mr. Cola?
Aye.
Angus?
Aye.
Riser?
Aye.
Rivera?
Aye.
Mr. Albright?
Next up are budget parameters. The district is in the process of preparing the 2025-2026 school year budget, which by law must be approved by June 30th, 2025. Part of that process includes determining budget parameters. The finance committee discussed these at its May 12th meeting. Can I get a motion?
I move that the Board of Education authorize the administration to prepare the 2025-2026 budget, setting the foundation allowance at $10,008 based on the Senate's proposed budget enrollment projection using the same number included in the bond proposal prepared by the Michigan Alliance for Student Opportunity and the Section 147G allocations as proposed by the Senate.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second discussion.
I can do a quick overview and then you can.
Yeah, I'm here if you need.
All right, so, in general, according to state law, there's the legislature is supposed to pass and that's like the budget. Their fiscal year actually will start off first. Historically, we've made it in the last 5 or 6 years pretty close to June 30th. Before that, it was back and forth. Sometimes it was June 30th, sometimes it was September. So at this time of year for our process, we have to base our budgeting parameters on something. So we will not know what they pass and what they're going to set our per pupil allowance at, or what they're going to set how much our enrollment. We don't even know our enrollment until February, March of next year. So it's a lot of guessing, but educated guessing. So currently, the governor released a budget that had a per pupil allowance at $10,000 per student. It sounds much better than it is, but we send about 3,000 of it right back. Or they give us money and then they take it back. And then the Senate passed a budget at $10,008 per student. The House passed a budget that was kind of a shell that cut schools $5 billion, but that was done early, it wasn't based on anything, and they're working through their actual budget they're going to present. So the Senate's has passed, the governor's was proposed back in February. And then what happens is the House will release their budget. They had the revenue estimating conference on Friday. They'll release something in the coming weeks. They'll go through the political process and pass something out of the House, and then it will not match the Senate's, and it will not match the governor's, and then a bunch of people will go into a room and then they come out with something and they magically pass it in a 12-hour span. So working through with the finance committee, what we do at this time of year every year is, if it's this process, we try to figure out, okay, how much do we think we should budget per student? So the two choices based on any information are $10,000 and $10,008. So the finance committee said, okay, let's go with the higher. Enrollment wise, we included in the bond application, we contracted, they used to be Middle City, but they changed their name.
Michigan Alliance.
Michigan Alliance for Students, something. They just changed their name. So they do actual forecasting based on birth rates, transients in communities, migration in and out of the state, et cetera. And the actual numbers that are included here for students projection are based on their that they gave us that we put in bond application. So it wasn't that we ran our own forecast, we used external professionals that did forecasting, and they're historically been fairly close. So those were the basic parameters to be able to start the process. In June, we'll have to bring the full budget of what we think based on, we generally take based on staffing rolling over. But we know we have some changes in staffing at this point, and we started to build this in, just to prove the DEA contract, so that we'll build that in. We'll build in what we know. And then go through, and there'll be a budget hearing, we'll have to figure out if that's the first or the last week, probably the last one, the way it's going.
Yep.
Because we're waiting on Lansing. The worst thing is there's times when we set the budget hearing and then all of a sudden they magically go in their room and they come up with something. Whatever we just came up with, that makes sense. So the step for now, so that we can start building a budget, is to take what the revenue estimates would be. All right, in terms of per pupil allocation and how many students. That's what we refer to.
Yep, the only thing I would add is we talk about a 147G allocation in there. The governor and the Senate proposed different amounts. And their language is a little bit different. We think the governor's intent was incorrect based on a lot of things. We really dug into this in finance committee. We think the Senate cleaned up the intent for the language. So the comfort level is to use their model for our forecasting. 147G is the.
Steve, we're still living.
Steve, 25%.
But that's not in what we asked for
No, I know.
today.
Like you. Just.
Caesar Complex.
Right.
Caesar Complex. We did a lot of work in finance committee on the 147.
They expect to show that.
Say that again.
Is this related? Was this related to section 147G or is this something?
A different section.
Oh, well, that is part of the budget.
Part of it, but it's gonna be next.
Okay.
We're just. When you talk to your state legislatures, you'll make sure. It's a nice little blurb. Yeah, use that when you language for it, but it'll be a big gap in our budget.
So that's the 147A4, whole nother letter, Melanie.
Okay.
But that's the funding that was passed to us last year and then taken back from us this year. And it would be important for us to have it for this year.
So I think
Probably the big cut that's gonna come, that this Republicans pushing for education budget. Recognize it. One state perhaps thinks that. That's a budget. So. Proposing. Basically. If they don't get the grants, then we go for the constitution.
Down was that.
You know,
Say the most fast, so that's whether they could. So if, in the end, as I talked to legislators from both parties, they want to fund schools, it's probably being mechanical. 31, all the different jobs. That's where there's billions of dollars. That's what it's.
So we are authorizing, just for clarity, for the committee, for the board, finance committee, that's not, you said, Doug lead into all of these assumptions. So basically all we're doing is saying, go ahead and build a budget off of this per pupil funding and this, Senate 147G assumption. So at this point, that's what we're authorizing to do. She can go forward, come back, we'll have more information in June. And then we'll look at the budget in total. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions for me? Three of you are on finance. We'll move ahead to a roll call them. Mr. Sephora?
Aye.
Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Reichner? Aye. Mr. Rivera? Aye. Mr. Albright? Aye. We look forward to seeing what you bring back. All right, next up is marching band raincoats. The band department at Dexter High School would like to purchase 250 new performance coats for the DHS band to use in case of inclement weather. The current coats are from 1980. This packet includes a recommendation and quotes. The lowest quote was from Francis Enterprise LLC for about $28,000. We'll add it to 10% contingency in case of delay or unforeseen additional costs. The contingency is almost $3,000 for a total not to exceed around $31,000. Rounded those numbers. The expenditures will come from the committed fund balance for performing art equipment.
I'll move that the Board of Education approve an amount not to exceed $30,900 to purchase of 250 new performer coats. The DHS band from Francis Enterprises LLC in Haslett, Michigan, from funds allocated committed fund balance for performing art equipment.
We have a motion on the second discussion.
Yeah, I don't have a list, but they, band raincoats might be the most tenured staff member in the district.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Somebody even said 70s. I pulled them out to take pictures. I was like, oh my goodness. So, they're much needed. They're there. I think what we're gonna do for district policy too, of looking at getting rid of our old ones, we're gonna put them up on Elliot, the Dexter staff and students in the community, that if anybody were to want a raincoat from 1980, you could have one. You could have one. Look at them, but they are, yeah, so we're working with them to get them as soon as possible. I know it's a split between the 2 fiscal years, so we'll make sure that it goes into the start of next year is when it works. Get the raincoats on and going.
So there was actually, I think there was a bond vote at one point that records, I think, bought. It's just a fraction of a mil, with this and a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, that was back, that's the way it used to happen, where every year you were doing some kind of election. The coats are older than a lot of parents of band kids. And they've held up really well though, they really have, but it's time, and then we have in the budget, there's designated fund balances. There's 4 items like this that are not bondable, they're not operational annually, they're one-time purchase. So it's.
Purchase for 47 years.
You got it.
We got our value out of it.
We got our
value.
something else. But they take great care of it with storage. They do a great job with storage. And we got 40.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a good run.
I mean, they only come out when necessary. I think they were only used once last year with the rain and stuff, and it was fun to see them walk down, march down. They're like,
They're so stiff.
like, oh yeah, they were still stiff. We will also work with the business office for stuff like this. We've done an LEO count, so there's certain parameters we have to follow to see with uniform. So we're going to, as Christie's great idea, she was, why don't we look at doing it, put them out for the community or families, right? We may have some band parents and stuff that would love one of the old raincoats back from when they marched in. They must have put it in this line
Right before Halloween.
Yeah.
So.
But look at it, because we figure there's not a whole lot of value to open up like on gov deals like we do with a lot of stuff. What district is gonna want raincoats and say Dexter. So we figured there's a way we can look at it for our community.
And I say you missed the chance to model it for us here tonight.
I couldn't brought one, I got a picture for you, but yeah, it was been a little stiff.
Chris, just for us, this is coming out of the middle of the fund balance thing, the uncommitted, okay. Thank you.
I'm sure the old ones are purpose.
Yep.
Read it on the sweat. Yeah. Keeps you driving the sweat.
Yeah, I don't have the, we're still waiting to get the specifics from the order of the code. I mean, I have them, sorry. I do have them, I don't have them memorized.
Yeah, they're whatever they do for modern.
They look almost like this one of the swim coats they have, rain resistant.
Yeah, they went through, got multiple bids.
They did, the person who did it from the band has, knows people who have these same types of coats have done it for other schools, they were recommended.
They were the lowest ones.
Thank you so much. Let's do a roll call vote. Thank you. Aye. Right. Aye. Sarah? Aye. Aubrey?
Said aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to discussion items. We have a little bit of discussion too about the superintendent search process to move us down the road a little bit. Okay, that would be totally fine. Yep.
Oh.
Okay, do we have problems? Yeah, no worries. While we have this minute pause, can we pass the items that were brought to us? Like the extra copies, there are a few. Thank you, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, while Hope is bringing some, papers in here, I want to look at, a couple of dates. I did go back to the consultant that we were talking to see what this could look like. And he is proposing that we have a survey that goes out from Monday, June 2nd to Monday, June 9th. to our community. After graduation, it is Seaboard still in school, so it's still. Superintendent, yep, I'm on.
What was passed around is not.
Yes,
No, no,
sorry, that was
Nice to make sure.
organizing.
Yeah, okay.
This is a community survey. This would be a community survey. Yep, and mostly I'm just, if there's any specific feedback, but that seemed like, he recommended that. It seemed like a good target to me.
Is that going to be mailed to residents or?
It will be an online survey, and so we can get the word out about, how to complete the survey. And it will be available to students, to staff, and to community members.
But it only goes to addresses that district have. I mean, how are we gonna get it out?
Well, sometimes would say, here's the.
Yeah, I mean,
Those emails will only reach out as how you go for one.
well, I guess I could make the argument that the people on our school email list are probably our priority in terms of sharing their email, but there will be opportunities for the community to respond. So anyone can take it, and I believe there will be a check mark to say they're the same. So we will be able to, and also, I guess I'm answering this question based on guesses. He does this with different districts all the time, so I'm assuming he'll provide specific guidance. And then he was proposing that he would come out to the district and do stakeholder meetings, either Thursday, June 5th or Friday, June 6th. Those would be meetings that he would be running, and the board would not want to go to those because we want to make sure that people feel able to share whatever feedback information they want without feeling like we're, specifically identifying them and what their wishes are. So he would be running those completely, and it would be up to him. We talked about different ways he could do it, but he will kind of look at who we want to talk to, how big the meetings are, that sort of thing, and he'll kind of figure out how he wants to divide up the meetings. And I'm assuming he'll work with me and or Chris Hope to try and figure out how we share the right information, coordinate the rooms. This is not something I'm familiar with, but I would say he does it everywhere, so I'm assuming I'm gonna get information. And so again, that would catch people before the end of the school year. And then I want to propose adding a board meeting on Tuesday, June 24th at 6 p.m. And that would be a board planning session. And he would come and facilitate that meeting for us and work through just a lot of the different process things and to get a plan in place of how we do this. And because we will have had the search committee and the stakeholder meetings already, he will be able to bring actual information about the profile of the person we're looking for to that meeting so that we can really through. Does that sound reasonable?
Did you say the 24th at 6?
Yes. Tuesday, we have the meeting Monday, the 23rd. This was the end of the meeting on the 23rd.
Okay,
I don't know that he was available that day, so I think that's why we turned in the 24th.
but we'll do both. Or is it two?
Well, it's a lot. To be honest, I think it's a lot to do the stuff with something else, because I think we're really gonna get into the nitty-gritty during this meeting, and so just kind of
Okay.
being able to talk through it.
Do you need clarification for that? So that'll be a workshop.
It'll be a board workshop, yeah. Yes, it will be posted and open. But yes, it will run as a workshop.
Chris is bringing over the quality.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yes, so that's up next is Hope gave you a copy of the service agreement. And this outlines the types of things I was saying that I was presenting on at our last meeting in terms of the types of help he would provide for us. The initial fee that he was estimating, with the total being adjusted up or down based on if our search became more extensive or less extensive than he was. So the honest truth is, based on the other services I looked at and the range, this is completely in line with what is being charged. So if you guys are in agreement with this, I actually do want to move this as an action item and vote to accept or not this service agreement so that we can officially.
With the service agreement, also include what you just proposed as to the survey dates like that.
Yes, all of that is
Okay.
included under what he.
You look at pricing. Here it says internal search, right? That's that internal. BCS.
So
What is that? That's one thing I have a question on.
So at our last meeting, and I apologize that I haven't caught you up on that. At our last meeting, the board decided that we wanted to first open the opportunity to our Dexter staff. And so he built this contract with that direction. And that is why there is a, let's see, in that second paragraph on the bottom, it says the total fee may be adjusted if any of the specified services are deemed unnecessary, or if the search expands to include external applicants. Okay.
Then I guess I would move that the board adopt the service agreement that we've just reviewed, as well as conducting a survey of the community from June 2 through June 9. Holding a stakeholder meeting on June 5th or June 6th, depending on what works best with this gentleman. And having a special board workshop on June 4th. That is my motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call.
Roger?
Aye.
Moira?
Aye.
Mr. Hologram? Beverly?
Aye.
Mr. Secola?
Aye.
Angus?
Okay. All right, the last task that I want to do when it related to the superintendent search process tonight is that you all have in front of you a list of qualities that you might want for all of these qualities would be wonderful to have in our next superintendent. And what we want to do is have a discussion and try and kind of identify whether there are top priorities that are coming to rise to the top of the list for our board. And so I'm going to make notes on this, and I am also going to let our consultant know where he can find us in the meeting so that he can watch it and see what our feelings are, because he will be using this feedback as he builds the profile, in addition to our community and staff student feedback. Yes, project when you're speaking so that it records well. I want to make sure I'm inviting the students to also participate in this. So we're looking for you to choose sort of your top 10 out of this list, with the idea that all are important, but what sort of stands out to you? It's a really good question. Does anyone have a great idea for that?
Do you want to just have us rattle out our top 10 and that would. And the coach can keep score.
You know, why don't we do that? We just put
Sure,
check marks
let's-
next to each one.
Let's just try that. All right, Melanie, you're up, because, you know, you have a great idea.
It was my great idea.
Yeah,
Okay. So, I would say academic focus, approachable and accessible. Sorry, critical thinker, decisive. Organizational and management skills. Professional. Skilled communicator. Strategic thinker. Visible and actively engaged. Whole child focus. And there's no rhyme or reason, but I found some of them to kind of actually layer up on each other. So,
yeah, I agree, depending on what you're thinking about as you approach it, other ones can match.
right. So that's.
Who else wants to roll through some, and then maybe we can do this, and then if people want to just talk about some of the things that sort of were most meaningful, just to get context to what we're saying.
Highlights.
All right, I'll go over. Academic focus, committed to professional growth and lifelong learning. Community engagement. Data-driven, knowledgeable, and best practices. Financial acumen. Organizational and management skills. Resolves conflict. Skilled communicator. Student-centered. Visible and actively engaged. They're all.
Okay. I also serve with academic focus. Collaborative team builder. Financial acumen, inspiring. Integrity. Open-minded, prioritizes effectively. Strategic thinker, student-centered, whole child focus.
Jennifer, what'd you say right before whole child focus?
Strategic.
Strategic thinker is
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. All right, since we're going down the line, I will say academic focus, authentic, critical thinker, data-driven, effective board relations, financial acumen, policy and governance knowledge, skilled communicator, strategic thinker, student-centered. Go for it, no order. We're doing alphabetical order, please.
Try to go in order. On your left. Academic focus. Collaborative team builder. Community engagement. Culturally competent, civil acceptance. Financial acumen. Lead with integrity. Organizational management skills. Literate. Student center. So.
Jump around.
Oh,
I wanted to change.
okay, no worries.
Someone was like, someone.
That's on our toes,
Some of them
Dan.
have the same.
Great. Back to the.
Mine are academic focus, committed to professional growth and lifelong learning. Kind, caring, and empathetic. Leads with integrity. Policy and governance knowledge. Professional. Respectful. Skilled communicator. Discipline and active. This one was resilient and pulls under pressure, but I also think that sort of fit with decisive, so.
Well, and then like the whole child focus is exactly like how it's student centered, they're a little bit minute, but that's kind of the same.
Resilient.
Yeah, and decisive, someone
You can be decisive. Yes, sir.
that'd be resilient.
That's what I kind of do the same.
We only have some clear overlap, which is good.
Claire and Marty, do you have some you'd like to?
I've had excellent focus, attracts and retains students. Critical thinker, data driven and knowledgeable of best practices, and I kind of scooped that with technology.
Yeah.
Decisive financial acumen, leads with integrity, student centered, and whole child focused.
Crazy top 10.
Excellent, we're ready.
Starting with academic focus, that's popular. Approachable and accessible, community engagement, personable relationship builder, skilled communicator, visible and actively engaged, visionary leader, whole child focus. Sorry, it's all right.
Skilled communicator.
One skilled communicator, visibly and actively engaged, visionary leader, whole child focus. We're ending it with talent development.
That's a good one. All right, as you've all read, through all these and thought through what you wanted, let's just take a minute to share if you have any thoughts that have sort of risen to the top as you've looked at these terms, or things that you think, yes, multiple terms mean the same thing and this one thing is really important. Just what we want to do is give John a sense for where our board is at and sort of what's behind some of what we're choosing here.
I think some of them give some kind of together.
Later.
They kind of layer, you know, if you want to make this also student focused. Whole child focus. They're both important, I think, at least together. Kind of get too fine tuned on them.
Well, so what for you is meaningful part of that? Is that ignoring the term, what is the,
Well,
what is the?
I think to
meaning
me is academic focus, but we don't have it on here. I should add it. Academic focus. Because we always, that's what I'm saying, it's not really there. We spend a lot of time now, you know, the kids gotta go to college. Right? And that does, extra school, everyone's focused on going to college, gotta be IB, gotta be in class. 500 kids have to get straight A's or else they go into, that's a good cycle. And now we're saying, okay, you know, we're bringing all these courses that tech, or a little different spin, but with the last 10 years. So the academic focus to me is focus on the student. I'm a child. Do that. And the other thing to me, I think are super important. I would say to me the most important thing is you gotta be learning technology like me. But that's where we're going. Right? That's where the country's going, that's where the world's going. So if we don't, if our superintendent doesn't understand it, how can we expect students to support it and financially literate? Sure, I'll stop these because anything to do with finance, and organizational skills. We've all with the crazy 4 years budgets, it's gonna get worse, but I don't see it any better in the next 4 years.
Just to add, like what you're saying about, I think it's super important that the superintendent understands, like, I mean, AI is obviously a huge topic. I think they have to understand that, there's not like only goods and bads, like there is a middle ground. And I think it can be a really good thing for students, and I don't think we should be choosing someone that's closed-minded. I think we really do need an open-minded person that is acceptable to change as these technologies change. Because to actually have this academic focus and to have the best academics and pathways for students, I think we need to utilize these technologies to the best of our capabilities. And I think you need an open mind and knowledge of these technologies.
Kind of add on to that, but just kind of keep in mind, it also kind of adds on to like resiliency, in the sense, we watched through COVID where we had to make drastic changes to our education system. We did like virtual schooling, and now like that's even an option for students now. And someone who's like gonna be willing to like pioneer elements of school as technology, and even some social services.
Yeah, so what Marty was just talking about is, I think that's a picture of flexible. I don't know that resilience is a good point. It's the last. Oh, way over here. That's not a good thing. Being open-minded, being open.
Well, so you can go off script, you don't have to
Roll,
stick to
roll
these
with the
words.
punches, right? Like that's. Okay, so for me, I really like the legal integrity. I think that, what do we look for from, when I sent my kids to school and they were kindergartners. And not just, to be academically successful, but to be supported, to be engaged, and to be confident and able to be flexible and resilient. So that's why I really like whole child focus versus just student centered, because it's about the whole child, right? Emotional, social development, and academics. So that's why I like that one. I do like student centered as well. And then the lead with integrity, I just think, you should be a very good role model. Financial acumen to me is, I know there's no question, if you don't understand first, it's going to be very difficult to run the district. And collaborative team builder is important to have a strong team. Because if you have a strong team, then the children are also everybody can bounce off of each other. So that's.
Me just going off script, I think I would lean towards somebody that would continue on the legacy that Chris has left here, with kind of not micromanaging our adult staff, our principals and our administrators underneath superintendent. I think Chris did a wonderful job not doing that. I think that's an important aspect. I don't think that's even identified in here, whether they because you can get a superintendent that wants to have his or her hand in every building all the time, right? Wants to put their stamp on everything and not let their principals do what they do best. So I think that's important to acknowledge that and keep an eye out for that. Financial acumen, I think, like Dan was saying, we never know what it's going to be. So I think that's another key aspect that I would be looking for. That has that financial background.
Picking out that cue, I think, for me, one of the most important things is strategic thinking, because that's one of the things that Chris has been good about. And it's kind of kept driving us forward as we pivot and make changes, but having the strategic plan in place, not only like what are we doing now, what are we doing long term. I think for me, that's probably the biggest standout. The other stuff, I think you could roll any one of these to kind of other, in some degree, that would be whole child versus student centered. And for me, it's like, if you're gonna be student centered, it's because you're considering the whole student. So that's the way I looked at it, and that's why I was selecting one and not the other, but. So,
I just think one of the things that was so impressive when I just came on the board this year and was really Dr. Timmis's institutional knowledge and really how much he knows about what's happening up at the state legislature and how that impacts our school district and our students and our teachers. And everything is student focused here. So the academics, the programming, the teachers that he brings in, and just really including all of the students. That's one of the things that I've been most impressed with, and really seeing that transition when we went through COVID, how really the district didn't miss a beat and just trying to keep our kids engaged. It was not a perfect situation where students were in school, but and they fell behind a little, but then the next year when we were back in school, the programming was set there to try to bring students up and up. And so I think someone with that institutional knowledge and background that includes all of our students at every level, for academics, for athletics, for arts, for IBP, for this new program that everyone's talking about. I like that, and I hope that we can continue that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to throw out there that I felt like some of these words, like data driven, financial acumen, policy and governance knowledge, I feel like some of these things are very much core of what we do here on the board.
Yeah,
It's pretty
it's a
much-
list.
It pretty much are. So I think that those are sort of kind of no brainers for Dexter, and then other things are, you know, frosting. But I guess I just wanted to throw out, I think I was the only one who said authentic and effective board relations. And while those might not be sort of top picks, I guess the intention I wanted to throw out there was that trust is very difficult right now in society. And I feel like one of the things that has gone well for us is that we have had a really strong board who trusts each other and who trusts our superintendent. And it's been almost 5 years now that I've been on the board, and it's a very different relationship, a superintendent and school board relationship than I ever imagined it to be. And so knowing how odd it is, I feel like most of society wouldn't recognize how weird it is that like we are superintendent's boss, you know, and so it's a very weird relationship. So I think having someone that you can really work in partnership with while also like being their boss, it's a very weird dynamic. So I guess I just wanted to sort of highlight that it really does need to be, I think, a good fit so that everyone on the board is feeling comfortable with the decisions that get made when we're not there, because we're here like not that often, you know, we're oversight. So
That is also, I think, collaborative team building too.
absolutely, yeah.
When this gets put out. Search. the most job search. Now, before, must be able to address one and two. And nice to have. I think that's when eventually somebody's together. And these are, can't lose. Yeah. And the other ones are, no one's gonna have all of them. All like was for 16 years, 17.
Yeah.
Right, you've been there for 6 years, or 8 years. No one's gonna, unless we have some that 15 years experience as an SI, which is not gonna happen. State of Michigan, it's gonna happen, it's gonna expand for us, like 3 years. now,
Five, 3.
They're all leaving, so.
Yeah.
You know, we're not gonna get everything one person, and they're gonna grow it. Need to get. That's all.
Yeah, so I think that's the idea. So these terms are the basis of the survey that will go out to the community. And so, you know, we will get an enormous amount of feedback, or we won't, but John will. He will put together sort of a summary of the results for us. And then he will use that information to help build the profile of what our community is looking for. And then we will have an opportunity to, comment specifically on that profile thing together. But then that essentially is our guide for when we interview people, is this the person we? So that's the idea. And I'm sure he will explain it more eloquently in June. But that's the summary. And so I just wanted to make sure we had a chance to sort of get our thoughts out there.
Concise and robust.
Okay, great. Perfect. All right, we will move on then, and we will need to get Chris back for the next part. Right. So the next piece will be the board meeting calendar for like that.
What you guys did this year, about that work or didn't work, it can always be adjusted, but that's how the number of meetings are. Per month.
Couple days.
Yeah.
With the new calendar,
January 19th.
January 19th. But it's a district. Technically.
That's right, we're eliminating anyway, so.
And then there's another date on the calendar.
All right. How do we want to do this? Starting in July,
What dates are bad for people?
Historically.
That's fine.
I'm gonna say I will be out of town on the 28th, so my preference would be the 14th, but
That's really straightforward.
yeah. There is another week in July there. I don't know if that was already busy, but in case that was better.
I'm gonna be out of town.
Oh, okay.
That's a meeting I.
No, we're not meeting without you.
Darn.
14th with everyone? Yeah, okay. All right, August.
You usually only have one, right? You did two. Oh,
There's
we got
like
all
Oh,
five.
you're right,
so-
you're right, okay. so-
Chris, what is best for the school schedule? Is there one?
25th, is the first day of teachers.
So not
But
bad.
heck, it's us.
Okay.
It's kind of a crazy time.
It's really great.
I would say the 4th and the 18th, only because I know the Dexter days and I'm. It's not possible, is the weekend of that, I'm not sure that that is what anybody, it's no inflation second. The 11th. But that's a Monday, so it's not a big deal.
My only question is, do you need a late date in August for any new hires?
That's how early we need. So we're not gonna go to the 15th. I would probably recommend
Okay, I mean, this year we've met on August 12th and the 26th, so maybe we follow suit.
11th and 25th.
That's fine.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's nice to be able to see what's on every year. I mean, yeah, you might be in anyway.
Yeah.
every day.
September, we only did one this year. I'm not sure if that's still gonna.
It would not be a bad thing. I would recommend 15th.
Okay.
Get it.
And just one.
What is not bad. 15th to 22nd.
So I think one.
Okay.
Then we can wrap up any new hires.
Perfect. We only did one in October this year.
You want to add to, we can always drop one, or?
Yeah.
6th and 27th, or 6th and 20th?
Especially if it's September 15th, 6th.
Yeah,
That works.
we can always drop it if we don't need it, but it's probably better for this calendars. So I guess in that vein, you want to. November 3 and 7.
Remember, usually only do one, right? So the 15th.
I was gonna say the 8th.
Oh, that's fine.
The 15th is Monica, in case that.
Oh, okay,
is-
then. January. Drop the 19th. Oh, yeah, let's do them every Monday in February, guys.
Sometimes you designate one of January or February as a workshop. I think you have anything in January.
Yeah, February.
No, we're still in January.
Okay.
I'll just put it on the table.
I would say, let's hold them as a meeting and then we can designate as the superintendent search process goes forward, we might decide something. We have a lot of schedules, so I just want to hold time that we can always get back. If that's okay. So then I would say not February 2, but the 9th and the 23rd. Right, because the 2nd is right after the change. Yeah, that's what always happens.
The 9th.
9th and 23rd.
Correct. Looking at the same thing, 9 and 23 in March. 13th and 27th. We're just kind of doing every other. Then we go 11th, I think. Ooh, that's, we had to event that. We did this year. Yeah, it got weird. That's pretty cool. Chris is checked out, he's not here anymore. I'm gonna say, let's just hold 2 dates, whichever ones you want, and we can always give it back, 4th and 18th.
June though, you're gonna want the latest date. June budget.
You want a June 1 too, or?
Probably want to. skip budget.
Okay, June 1 and 22. Okay. Is
June
that
1 may be
after?
weird on commencement.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, when is
Calendar,
the
right?
commencement?
Is it June 29th, bad date?
I think it's.
Oh, is it that week?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe the 8th.
Maybe the 8th and the 22nd.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're gonna.
Is there a reason 8's not on?
The 8th and 22nd are good dates for budget and attached assessments and everything.
Yeah.
Can I write it back so I can get it right? July 13th, yeah, August 11th, 25th.
Yeah.
September 15th, October 6th. November 3rd and 17th. December 8th, January 12th and 26th. February 9th and 23rd. Same for March, April 13th, 27th. May 14th. June 8th.
Yep. Perfect, thank you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here still. We are up to our second period of time for public participation. I do have one form. How many people would like to speak? 3 people? Okay, normally at our second public participation, we keep it shorter, but since there's only 3 of you, we'll let you have up to 5 minutes. Who would like to go first?
Hello, Dexter Board of Education. My name is. I wanted to touch on something regarding policy 5106 that I didn't hear mentioned earlier. When I learned about the rescission of this policy, I was thinking, why would they have done this? And in reading the 2 executive orders that were cited as the reason for these rescissions, one thing stood out, which was that there was certain threats made to federal funding of schools. Okay. Looking into that a little bit more though, the only threats that were made were to the federal funding, and in the year 2024-2025 for Dexter Community Schools, federal funding in the a December revised budget made up less than 1.5% of the school budget. I don't know if you're familiar with the moral dilemma You have a button in front of you. If you push it, you get some amount of money, but one random person dies. You're faced with that decision of the material wealth versus the well-being of people in your community. And if any of you have ever thought about that moral dilemma, don't worry, because in a unanimous vote on March 17th, you all answered that question for yourself. You pushed that button.
Up here. I'm Rebecca Farber, and I'm just a mom in our. I'm also a proud mom of 2 trans kids who thankfully, safely, they got to grow up. And it's a close thing several times, because when they came to the school system, this kind of policy wasn't even something that people thought about. Okay, so when you all are making these decisions, and you're making them based on the best word of the law firm, please understand that these are human beings in our lives that you are talking about, and that you are talking about removing policies that protect them, because policies are important. All of you on policy boards, you know that policies are what people look for to guide their actions. This is the letter I provided.
Can you just tell them like you did that? Or just move it over? It just. Yep.
Okay, I'm
Just go to the side.
Perfect. Provided a copy of the letter from the state superintendent dated February 13th, 2025. It's over there because he anticipated exactly this. He anticipated that school boards across the state would act out of fear, that they would take the advice of law firms to comply in advance, and he was afraid of that. So I'm just going to read some important highlights from that, and I hope that you all read the text of it, that you look it up, that you look at the research behind it, because again, the state superintendent of Michigan wrote this to you all months and months ago, anticipating exactly what you did. We are people too. All children, no exceptions, deserve safe, welcoming schools. All have the right to be free from bullying and discrimination. To the absolute best of our ability, we as educators have the responsibility to ensure these rights for all in schools. All means all, including LGBTQ students. We educate, protect, and support all our children. Students arrive with their own unique experiences, identities, and needs. We have a moral and professional responsibility to them all. We also have a legal responsibility. In 2023, the state legislature passed and Governor Whitmer signed into law an expansion of the Elliott-Larsen Act to prohibit discrimination on the additional bases of sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. Neither a presidential executive order nor federal regulations, whether related to federal funding or not, can supersede or otherwise set aside our obligation to comply with validly enacted state anti-discrimination law. State civil law remains the law. Anti-LGBTQ laws and policies harm young people and have a direct impact on their health, well-being, and educational success. 89% of Michigan LGBTQ+ youth reported that recent politics had negatively affected their well-being, sometimes or a lot. In states where anti-transgender laws aimed at minors were passed, suicide attempts by transgender and non-binary teenagers increased by as much as 72% in the following years. Like all students, LGBTQ+ students are most likely to thrive when they are supported. Like all students, they deserve respect, not relegation, dignity, not denigration. Michigan schools must continue to be places of safety and belonging for all students, irrespective of the politics of the moment. All means all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dave Rosenfeld. I'm the proud parent of a 18-year-old transgender son. We are currently residents, as of this year, we're residents of Ann Arbor School District, but for many years before that, we were residents of Saline. I just want to reiterate some of the points made by the other public commenters here tonight and ask the board to seriously consider reinstating your transgender student policy. I understand that your motivation for removing that policy may have been to sort of fly under the radar and avoid unwanted federal scrutiny. But I think that strategy is a mistake for a number of reasons. First of all, removing the policy, as you did, sends exactly the wrong message to some of your most marginalized and vulnerable students and families. And it does so at a time when they need you more than ever before to actually stand up strong for them and show them that you have their backs. At this point in history, when so many officials and politicians across the country are actually targeting the transgender community, especially trans youth, for supposed political gain, you have the incredible opportunity to make these kids who you have in your charge feel safe again. Second of all, as someone pointed out earlier, complying in advance, and I think the previous speaker pointed this out as well, complying in advance to constitutionally and legally suspect edicts and pronouncements from the federal government that are themselves discriminatory is not only not legally required, it actually opens you up to the possibility of running afoul of Michigan's own civil rights laws, which are most definitely binding upon you. And finally, one last point. I'd like to point out that there are a number of districts in the region, including Plymouth Canton, Rochester Community Schools, Heartland Community Schools, Mount Pleasant Schools, Ann Arbor, and Saline area schools, who have all stood by their transgender students and kept their transgender student policy, despite the fact that some of them have already attracted some scrutiny from the federal government. Thank you.
Down, we could.
Yeah.
Or just put it to the right on. Or just move it away.
I can hold it up, by the way.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
That's why I was.
Yeah. Problem solver. Nice.
Yeah, we go.
Yeah. Good here.
Hello. I've been at Dexter Schools for my entire life. I'm currently. And when I was in, I had a lot of mental health problems. I was eventually suicidal. I tried to take my own life. I had eating disorders and a lot of problems. I had a lot of support from the school district, from the counselors, from my teachers, from teachers that weren't even my teachers, but spent time with me. I had teachers that took walks with me and counselors that checked in with me every morning. And looking back on that, I'm really glad, even though I couldn't appreciate it entirely at the time. Looking back, I thank God that I wasn't trans, because right now, if I was trans, I would be worried. I would have another worry on top of all of the other things that I was worried about at the time. That what if I said something wrong? What if, you know, my teachers, my counselors said something to, you know, out me or make me feel more unsafe than I already was feeling? And I can't imagine what me would have been feeling like, and maybe wouldn't have said anything and got help, and maybe I wouldn't be here. I have a lot of friends, many of whom are queer and trans themselves, who are worried about this, some of whom are here today, some of whom aren't. And I have friends in middle school right now that are also struggling with things. And I can't imagine being them right now. And I can't imagine hearing school board say that, not that they don't care, but that they won't stand up and make a firm action statement, especially when they already had in the past. So please, if you want to tell the kids that you care about them, because I know that you all do, you wouldn't be here if you didn't, please reinstate the policy, because it really does mean a lot to them. Thank you. Oh, right, thank you. My name is Kathleen Berry. I do not have a speech prepared, but I felt it was very important to offer myself as a cautionary tale. I am from a very small town in Texas, population 10,000 people maybe. And I am non-binary. And for a long time, I didn't have the resources, have the understanding of what was wrong, just that there was something different. That the nice, comfortable little boxes that everyone else seemed totally fine with being inside didn't apply to me. And it felt like a pair of shoes that were too large, always rubbing, always causing blisters. And as I got older and I met people who felt the same way, though as quietly as they could, because otherwise would be dead, I realized it wasn't as strange of an idea. And I stand here today being one of the lucky few that realized that there was nothing wrong with me. There never was. Because many people that I cherished, that I loved, or even worse, they have experienced an eternal death. They've put away the name that felt so comfortable because it was unsafe. They have killed a part of themselves to keep their bodies alive. And that is sometimes so much worse. I fled my unsupportive, violent family. I fled the few people that I still felt like I could save because I didn't have the resources. There is no protection like this in Texas, and there is a chance, especially now, that we can lose those protections here. I'm standing here as one person, and I have the souls of dozens of people resting on my shoulders because they did not survive. And many people think, it's so few, there's so few people who are trans who feel uncomfortable. And then I go to another funeral, and it's about a bright young man who didn't always fit in, but there was no reason for him to take his own life. Except that was Jessica. And the fact that she could not be Jessica made life untenable. There is a lot of rhetoric now that people who don't identify as cookie cutter boxes are a new thing, that there's so many now. I want you to please consider survivorship bias. I want you to consider the fact that there are so many of these young, bright children here today because they were protected by adults. The kind of thing I wasn't allowed to receive. The kind of thing that, despite it, I lived. I can't say the same for any of my friends. Please, please protect these children. Give them the opportunity to live. That's all I can ask you. Thank you.
If you didn't get a chance to fill out a form and you would like a response from us, please make sure you put your contact information down and you can just leave it up here on the front after. Okay, so moving to our final board comments, considerations.
Yeah, so I just say a lot of comments and documents. Retired one thing. I answer a lot on Saturday. All top people on top. I do. I'll wish you well. Wish you well too. there. Same thing on the bond, a lot of positive comments on the bond, especially at. Well, the only district with the bond that will publish for the next 10 years. Kind of tied that to a little, but so a lot of up and down the community, you know, seniors, farmers, everybody. Few people, not positive comment. You know, it's always. So yeah, that's kind of we share those comments.
I appreciate everybody coming tonight. I think it's just so important to participate in local policies and politics and speak your voice. So thank you for being here. Your words are not lost.
Included in our packet are information items, including finance minutes from May 12th. We also have a bond congratulations from the Chamber of Education. There is no closed session tonight, so I will adjourn. Thank you very much.